Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video is going to be the 15-month update for my 3-year-long eyeshadow no-buy. 2019 was my beauty replacements only no-buy year, so of course eyeshadow was something that I couldn't buy during that time, and I wanted to continue with 2-year-long eyeshadow no-buy. And the reason I'm doing this no-buy is that I have accumulated a lot of eyeshadows, and eyeshadow is something that it goes quite slowly, and before bringing in new eyeshadows I want to get use out of the things I already have. In these videos I talk about my thoughts regarding my eyeshadow collection, I talk about my eyeshadow collection numbers and pan percentage, because seeing the change like in my eyeshadow inventory and in the pan percentage really motivates me to keep going. And then I'm also talking about any temptations I may have. Today I wanted to start by letting you know that I actually picked a new C palette. At least a couple of my palettes I know for sure that I do want to depot. When I first started thinking about depotting my palettes, I thought that I can wait and I don't need to get a new C palette yet. I do have one C palette, but it's full, so there's no room for a single eyeshadow anymore. So the options were either to wait or then to get the new C palette. And first I thought that I'm just going to wait and I don't have any hurry to depot my eyeshadows. But I actually changed my mind during the past month. This may sound a little bit like a stupid reason, but in my Project 10 Uses roulette, I randomized an eyeshadow from this Juvia's Place The Douche eyeshadow palette, and since I got this palette has been something that I like some individual shades of this palette, but I do not like all of the colors and I do not like the color story. So whenever I have been thinking about depotting my palettes, this has always been the first palette come to my mind as a palette I want to depot. And the eyeshadow I randomized to my Project 10 Uses roulette is this one over here called Tart, and this is like a white base duochrome that has like lilac-y pinky shift to it. I have now used this 2 times during this Project 10 Uses roulette project that I have been doing for a little bit over a month now. The first time I used it just as inner corner shade, and I was like, okay, I don't really like it, but you know, it goes there. The second time I used this earlier this week as lid shade, and I really hated how it looked. I don't even want to use it for 10 times. That is my goal, to use it in this project. And even if I forced myself to use it 10 times, I would never again want to wear it anymore. And because this palette has been anyway something that I have wanted to depot, because a lot of these shades I think I would get more use out of if I had them with my other singles, I just decided to get the new C palette and depot a couple of my palettes. This one, and then another palette I know I want to depot is this one. This is the BH Cosmetics Carly Bible Deluxe Edition palette. This takes a lot of space and there's a couple of highlighters there, and I would rather store these highlighters with my other depotted blushes and highlighters. So these palettes I know I will be depotting. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to depot any of my other palettes. I might do that, and I think I will be filming quite much content surrounding eyeshadows during the next month. A video or 2 videos that I have wanted to film for a longer time are those my favorite shade in a palette and my least favorite shade in a palette videos, and I want to film those before I depot any of my palettes. So you will probably see those in the very beginning of April. But I have also been thinking about maybe like deciding with you on camera which palettes I should depot and which not. But I'm not completely sure. Let me know if that's something you would like to see, or then when I have depotted these palettes, for example, if you want to see me deciding what shadows I'm going to keep and what I'm not going to be keeping. So the palette I ordered, I haven't gotten it yet, but I should get it in a week or 2, is the double-sided C palette. I do have one of these extra large C palettes, but as I said, this one is full. There's no more space here, and I was thinking if I should get one of these. Then I can show it to you now that we are talking about the potted stuff. I do have this magnetic palette from Tarte, and I do have over here my face powders, so blushes and highlighters that are depotted. What I think I will do is that I will, once I get the double-sided C palette, I think I will move all of my depotted blushes and highlighters to this palette. Then I think I will take this Tarte palette for those eyeshadows that I am using currently. For example, I have used up some staple shades from my Panda palette, so shades that I would use to complement my Panda palette, for example, or if I, randomize a single in my Project 10 Uses project, or something like that. And then I think to the double-sided C palette I will put my matte eyeshadows to one side of the palette and my shimmery eyeshadows to the another side of the palette. Let me know also if you want to see me reorganizing my singles and depotted eyeshadows. I just was really curious about this double-sided C palette. First of all, it can hold more eyeshadows, and I think I really want to depot a lot of my palettes. Not necessarily all of them right away, but I feel even some of my very oldest and dearest palettes, I think I'm going to depot them at some point. I don't know if I'm quite ready to depot, for example, the Too Faced Chocolate Bar palette yet. But most likely at some point it's a palette I am going to be depotting, unless I'm going to pan it. I'm not completely sure yet. But yeah, I wanted to get a palette where there is a lot of space, but that doesn't take a lot of space, if you know what I mean. Like, I know those are super popular, those huge palettes that take like 96 eyeshadows or what. I have nowhere to store that kind of palette because I only have my vanity over here, and the drawer is not too big. This is the Moln vanity from IKEA. So the drawer is rather small, so I don't even know if the large palette would fit there, like one of those huge magnetic palettes. So I was really interested in the idea of double-sided C palette. One palette that I was really curious about and really wanted to get when I first saw it was the Color Train Book of Shades. However, I decided not to get the Color Train Book of Shades because it only holds standard size eyeshadows, and most of my stuff that are coming from different palettes are something else than those standard size round eyeshadows. But I will say the Color Train Book of Shades looks absolutely amazing, especially if you're like collecting singles. That might be a palette to get. I think it looks cool, but for me right now it's not the right product. But the double-sided C palette, it doesn't take too much space. What comes to the length and height of the double-sided C palette, it's not quite as big as this extra large C palette. However, I think it is a little bit thicker. So it's totally something I can easily store in my vanity. So yeah, that is something I got. I will say it was quite expensive, the double-sided one, but for me it is like an investment. And you know, my eyeshadows are starting to be quite old, and I know for a fact that a lot of my eyeshadows will expire before I have chance to use them up, because my oldest eyeshadows are starting to be like 5 years old. And if the quality of my eyeshadows goes so bad that, you know, they are not pigmented anymore, they are difficult to blend out, in that case they are not worth of keeping for me. So that's why I have decided to start depotting some of my palettes. But yeah, expect to see some videos surrounding depotting eyeshadows during the next month. And the reason I wanted to talk about this first before getting into my eyeshadow inventory and numbers is that next month these numbers are probably going to be quite different. Okay, but then let's talk about my eyeshadow numbers. So this is kind of like my monthly eyeshadow inventory. So I do have all of my numbers, like how many I have, then I have my pan percentage and everything here. So it's really fun to track every single month, and as I said, it keeps me motivated to keep going my eyeshadow no-buy. So eyeshadow palettes I do have 14, and then I have one C palette in my collection. And this is the same than it was last month, but as I said, I purchased the new C palette and I am going to be depotting some of my palettes, so this will be different next month. Loose eyeshadows I do have 20, and it's the same than last month. Pressed single eyeshadows in my C palette I have 33, it's the same than last month. This is for sure going to be much higher next month. What is really exciting is that I have now finished my first eyeshadows of this year, so I used up 2 eyeshadows. So in total I do have pressed eyeshadows in my collection 204, last month it was 206. In total, including my pressed eyeshadows and my loose eyeshadows, I have 224 eyeshadows in my collection, when last month it was 226. Even though I love hitting pan on eyeshadows and I love seeing my pan percentage grow, the main reason I am doing this no-buy and the main reason I am panning is that I want to have a smaller collection. I want to get my stuff that I love used up. If I have something that I don't like, of course I don't want to finish something like that, but eyeshadows that I truly do enjoy, I do want to finish up. But then let's talk about my pan percentage. So I actually mentioned it last month that most likely my pan percentage is not going to grow during the next few months, and the reason to that is that when I start finishing these eyeshadows that I have already hit pan on, it's going to affect negatively to my pan percentage, and that's what has happened. Even though I actually did hit one new pan in my baby panda palette, I didn't quite hit it naturally, like the palette broke and dropped, and that's why there is pan now in one shade. But you can check out my panda palette update video if you want to hear more about that, but there is one more pan in my collection. However, because I finished 2 of the eyeshadows that I had already hit pan on, my pan percentage is lower. So that is what happens when I start finishing these eyeshadows, but yeah, it is what it is. As I said, I do have at the moment 204 pressed eyeshadows in my collection, and pressed eyeshadows with pan I have 20. Last month this was 21. As I said, I finished 2 of those 21 shades, but then I hit one new pan. So my pan percentage is 9.80. Last month it was 10.19. So unfortunately we are again under 10. Last month I didn't have any empty pans in eyeshadow palettes. Now I have 2 of them, so really exciting. Then let's quickly go through the progress with my collection so far this year. Before this month I had hit 5 new pans in my collection. This month I hit 1 new pan, even though it was the accident with the e.l.f. palette, but still I count it as an eyeshadow with pan. So in total so far this year I have hit 6 new pans. I have finished 2 eyeshadows now this year, so the 2 that I finished this month were the first I finished this year. And then finally I have decluttered 1 eyeshadow. It was a loose eyeshadow I decluttered in February. This month I haven't decluttered anything, but next month I will for sure declutter at least some eyeshadows from palettes that I am going to be depotting. So yeah, that is really everything that I wanted to talk about today. I often talk about any temptations I may have during the month, but I really haven't had any that big of temptations. Like some palettes have maybe caught my eye, but there hasn't really been anything that I really want to get. So maybe I will save the palettes that are just like a little bit interesting to me to next month's update if I still I'm tempted by those. But that was everything for today. Thank you so much for watching this video and see you in my next one. Bye bye.